She wants me to do this. I have to show her how to go. She wants us all to show her our love.
Daddy!
You don't want to disappoint her now, do you? We can't do that.
What are you talking about?
Your new sister, Eve. When I ask for rope, I expect to get rope.
Jack Baker is one of the most important characters to the events of the game Resident Evil 7 BioHazard. Not only is Jack a major thorn in Ethan's side during the events of the game, but he's also the patriarch of the Baker family, and the person who would ultimately bring about the destruction of that family, albeit unknowingly. Jack is a good person, a former Marine who wants to do the right thing for his fellow man. But, unfortunately, it would be this kindness and generosity towards others that would bring about his family's ultimate decay.
Oh, she's so young.
Yeah, how's our other guest?
Sleeping, poor thing.
Well, I say let him. He'll be okay here for a few days, at least while till we can get him into town.
Zoe, go get some fresh clothes from the laundry room, okay?
While we don't know a great deal about Jack before Evelyn's infestation of the Baker home, we do get a few key details that can help us understand what life might have been like for Jack before Evelyn took control. Jack and his brother Joe grew up in the swamps of Louisiana, and though they shared the tight bonds of family, the two young boys would often come into physical conflict. Being the older of the two, Joe would almost always have the upper hand, and on separate occasions he clotheslined his younger brother into the swamp and even broke his nose. These conflicts between Jack and Joe were likely fueled by another passion that the two siblings seemed to share in the sport of football. A passion which would follow the family throughout the years, with Joe having a monogrammed journal with the letters of his favorite sports team, and Jack keeping some memorabilia from the sport that he'd acquired throughout the years. Regardless of his hobbies, however, shortly after Jack turned 18, he enlisted with the United States Marine Corps, perhaps following in the footsteps of his older brother, who also seemed to have been in the military at some point in his life. Jack eventually left the Marines and returned to the swamps of Dulvey, where he would marry his wife Marguerite, as well as raise their two children, Zoe and Lucas. And so life went for the happy family. Jack picked up the trade of farming and watched his children grow into young adults. Rumors spread about his son Lucas being a bad seed, but beyond that, the family was just average. Normal people living normal lives. That is, until 2014, when the family would all but vanish from their community, and would become something of a local legend. A mystery forming around what could have happened to this normal Baker family.
So, Hillbilly Joe and his family go missing.
Not hillbillies, the Bakers. Jack and Marguerite Baker. And they were quiet, not backward. A lot of bad rumors about their son, Lucas. Bad seed, apparently.
In 2014, an unfortunate hurricane would destroy a ship named the Annabelle and send its debris into a bayou near the Baker family's estate. While investigating the damages to the family's property, Jack's son Lucas would find the ship and report these findings back to his father. Unsure what to make of his son's claims, Jack investigated the wreckage, finding two survivors aboard the Annabelle and bringing them back to his home to give them a place to rest. Jack retrieved a woman named Mia Winters and a little girl named Evelyn from the destroyed tanker, an act of kindness that would be repaid with the total annihilation of the peace that he had come to know from the swamps of Dulvey. Shortly after bringing the little girl back to his home, strange things began to happen. The power went out just as the little girl woke up. Lucas was knocked unconscious. Marguerite's body became a breeding ground for all manner of insects, and Jack attacked his own daughter, all of them being lost to the will of this mysterious little girl. Evelyn's influence over the Baker family led them to entirely withdraw from their former lives, leading the local parish to pronounce them as dead, with infrequent rumors as to their sightings giving rise to local legends that their old home was haunted. Jack and his family became puppets to Evelyn's will, and her incredible powers allowed her to force the Bakers into the familial roles that she'd become obsessed with. However, Evelyn wasn't completely satisfied with her new family members. She longed to have even more loved ones to surround herself with, so she forced the Bakers to begin abducting tourists and homeless people to expand the family. From 2014 to 2017, the Bakers abducted over 20 people in Dulvey, a task which Jack was heavily involved in, and a task which, in his delusional state, he quite enjoyed.
You can do it.
Jack and his family continued abducting and torturing those who were unlucky enough to find their way to the Baker estate, their minds being all but lost to the wills of Evelyn, the last of their humanity torn from them. However, in July of 2017, an unlikely savior would come to the Baker's home, Mia's estranged husband, Ethan Winters. 3 years ago, Jack had brought Mia back to the estate around the same time as Evelyn. But due to her erratic behavior, she'd spent a bulk of that time with the Bakers, locked in a cell beneath their guest house. Ethan had come to rescue his missing wife. But in order to do that, he would first have to contend with the family that had adopted her, and Jack wasn't very keen on letting her go. Evelyn wanted Ethan to become her new father, and so Jack, unable to resist her influence, attempted to make it so, capturing both Mia and Ethan and dragging them back to the main house of the family. Throughout the course of Ethan's adventures in Dulvey, Jack is largely focused on capturing him and forcing him into the role that Evelyn has assigned him. However, Ethan proves more resourceful than perhaps Jack had anticipated, besting him every time that the two come into conflict. Though, thanks to Evelyn's gift, with each defeat, Jack doesn't stay down for long. These conflicts culminate in Jack transforming into an unrecognizable beast, completely covered in the black mold and sporting multiple eyeballs all over his deformed body. Ethan yet again manages to defeat this monstrous version of Jack, calcifying his remains with a serum that was meant to cure a person of Evelyn's mycelia, assuming the subject's cells hadn't been largely compromised, which Jack's obviously had. However, despite being injected with this supposedly lethal serum, Jack managed to survive this calcification process thanks to a rare condition which saw his cells regenerating at unprecedented levels. Unfortunately for Jack, this condition also completely decayed his body, transforming him into something of a swamp creature, nearly unrecognizable, but also nearly invincible. In this new state, Jack set out with the objective to retrieve his daughter and bring her back to the house. Evelyn was dead, killed by Ethan. Yet, Jack's mind was so broken that he seemingly kept up the lifestyle that had been ingrained in him. Luckily for Zoe, however, she'd found a new ally in Jack's estranged brother, Joe, who'd been living in the swamps near the Baker family home, completely unaware of the family's predicament up till now. Jack and Joe had several altercations over Zoe, as Joe attempts to find a cure for her condition, and Jack attempts to bring her back to the house. Joe eventually manages to find a cure for his niece, but before he's able to administer it, Zoe is taken by her heavily mutated father. Joe, of course, follows his niece into the swamp, unaware that the creature that had taken her is none other than his little brother, but soon finds out as Jack shuts him in a coffin and throws him into the swamp. Joe washes up on a shore near the Baker family home, and upon finding a weapon left behind by Blue Umbrella, follows what's left of his family to the house for one last fight with his little brother. A conflict which would finally spell the end for this drastically mutated man. A tragic victim of his own kindness, who became one of the most dangerous creatures lurking in the swamps of Dulvey, Louisiana.
This is farewell from the family, brother.